Hello and welcome to this video about securing your Synology NAS version 6.2 or 6.2 and up, perhaps even before. So first step is to enable HTTPS, then change default ports so no one who knows the default ports can try to access them. Enable and configure firewall. Get SSL certificate for your domain if you are using external domain, but even if you are not, I would definitely recommend doing that. Enable two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, and keep your DSM and apps up to date. So let's start with number one. So go to your Synology and control panel. You will have to enable advanced mode to see all the options like security, but for now go to network, DSM settings, and then automatically redirect HTTP connections to HTTPS. So it'll pretty much redirect. I currently have HTTP, as you can see. Connection is not secure. Once I'll enable it, it'll transfer it to HTTPS. Let's try this. So essentially the HTTP port is still open. However, the web server will redirect all requests to HTTPS. Okay, this is what is to be expected because I do not trust, or my Firefox does not trust this certificate because it's self-issued. So let's add exception. A bonus thing I would add is when you go to security, you can set up a support for modern browsers, because there's a version SSL 1, SSL 2, SSL 3, TLS, TLSL 1, but it's been proven that the older versions of SSL aren't secure, hence we're using only TLS. So I would suggest you use modern compatibility, so in case someone's trying to exploit that vulnerability, it would not go through because it's just enabled. Let's go to number two, change default ports. So what happens when you have default ports on any application is that some external parties, usually foreign actors, I do get, or I used to get before I did this step, a lot of requests from like China and other Asian or South Asian countries that would try to access my system. By you changing the default port to something that is unknown or lesser known, you will pretty much disable or reduce this option. So since I've done this, I haven't had an attempt because someone would have to scan my IP address, what sort of services I'm running, what is open, but then they would not know necessarily what exactly am I running because I have restricted firewall, which I will show you later. So this is a good step to sort of eliminate any even attempts to your network. We'll go to control panel, network, DSM settings, and we change the default ports. So you can make up your own. I wouldn't go below 1000 because these are usually used for system services. So 443 is secure communication over HTTPS. Then you've got port 80 as HTTP, your web browsing, 53 is DNS, and so on and so forth. So you don't really want to use that below 1000. So you can make up your own. You can make up 6100 and then 6101 as HTTPS. These are allowed. So we have that. We can enable HTTP2 and also compression. Web browser will restart, or web server will need to restart, and we will be redirected to this new URL. Okay, we have to confirm the exception again because this is essentially a new address. So we'll add an exception. Perfect. And now we're accessing our disk station via secure access and a different default port. Number three, enable and configure firewall. So by default, Synology does not have firewall enabled. So this makes it easier for you to access your new Synology without any issues, all your file shares and everything else. However, it doesn't make it very secure. So let's go firewall and enable it. By default, there is no rules. So essentially, it's like you don't even have it because it lets everything through. So what you have to do, you can create either new profile or change the default one. Maybe just change the default one, but it doesn't really matter. It's just an active one because there is nothing in it. Go to edit rules and create rules. So what you want to start building allow list first, because then at the end we'll add disable list for everything else. So you want to make sure you can access obviously your Synology. So let's go select and we go management UI. I would only recommend HTTPS because we know we're not going to use HTTP anymore unless you need it. Enable it, but we are not going to do that. Currently we don't have any photo station or anything like that. Any WS discovery. We might have some printers later on. Definitely Windows file server. If you have Mac or Linux, then I would use NFS as well. Search disk station. So if you are using this application to search for your Synology, it might come handy. Enable it. We don't want to have MySQL. We want to have encrypted terminal, but we will keep it disabled, but we'll enter it into the list. Network MFP. Perfect. So this should suffice for now. We allow from all different IP addresses because we wanted to have access from all different places. Okay. It seems like it only added that one. Okay, it pulled them together as one. This might not be ideal because you then have one rule that you can turn off, turn on, or specify. But these are generic applications, so this will definitely suffice for now. So all these applications, Windows Server, File Server, Mac, Linux, encrypted terminal services. Actually, that encrypted terminal service, let me remove it for now. And I'll add it as another rule. Because as mentioned, I will keep it disabled. Then what you want is all ports, all IPs, and deny. And you want to have it at the bottom, and we'll drag the encrypted service. So this means that the rule is disabled, but it's also below allow all. So currently what happens when a packet comes in to your Synology, it is evaluated. Does it belong to one of those ports? Does it belong to Windows File Server, to Mac or Linux? Are you trying to access this UI via secure HTTPS port 6101? If not, it'll just not let it through. So let's confirm. Before you confirm, make sure you have the management UI. Otherwise, you will not be able to gain access and you will have to reset your network settings. Okay. Great, and our access is being maintained. That's done. Number 4, get SSL certificate for your domain. So what SSL certificate means and does for you is that it creates secure channel without you needed to accepting exceptions and stuff like that. This also works better for all your mobile applications or Synology applications. So if you want to access your Synology video or photo station and any of the other ones, it's much better to create it via custom SSL certificate. So for that you will need a custom domain. I have my own allsecurity, that's my business, but I've created a new subdomain ds.allsecurity.com. So currently we can't access it because it's pointing to my public IP address, which I'm currently at, so that's not going to work. So the way you have to do that first, you have to purchase obviously your very own domain. Synology, just to sidetrack, Synology has their own services that you can use for quick connect, and you can get their own quick ID. I don't like using that very much because you don't have control over pretty much anything over the domain. But this is a custom domain, so I will use that. So you will have to get, or if you already have, get your own domain. Preferably put it on a subdomain. Don't put the name of the disk station in the name. I've done that mistake. Now that I've upgraded, I still have to use the old name. So that's quite a silly thing of me to do. Use something more neutral like DS or Synology. Best SSL certificate, in my view, that you can get are from SSLs.com, which is essentially a service provided by Namecheap, which is a registrar in the US, similar to GoDaddy or all your similar services, Melbourne IT in Australia, which is ridiculously expensive. Please don't use that. You can get the cheapest one possible, because the difference between the cheapest and most expensive one is some of the features that you get, like the green padlock and the actual name, and also you get higher insurance. So the lowest one is about $10,000. If someone breaks through the SSL or get their certificate, then you get paid out. But I don't think it's worth it for Synology, because the likelihood of someone going into that trouble is very, very low. So I would stick with this cheapest one. So let me go through the purchase, because I actually have not done that, and then I'll show you how to. Okay, great. So that's done. So let's activate it. So I will have to generate CSR. CSR is certificate request. So let me do that here. So if I go back to control panel, security, certificate, then I'll go CSR, create certificate sign-in request. Next. So we'll use the default 248 common name. So that's my domain, my email address. If someone has access to your Synology and they want to confirm with the padlock, they will be able to see all these details in the certificate. Let's have a look at Namecheap. So you can see Namecheap Incorporated in Phoenix, Arizona, US. We can change the strength of the key to 4096. It's not really that beneficial, and it'll probably take a hit on your performance, because your Synology has to encrypt and decrypt any traffic that comes in and out. So the higher the strength of the certificate, the lower the performance. I would not go to 512 or 1024. So suggested 2048 is recommended, and what other businesses are using, because it is considered is very, very secure. Let's go next, and let's download this. Okay, so this is the signing request. So what you need is to copy this completely as it is and enter it here. So this will read all the details we just entered. Perfect. So this is the address that will be covered, ds.allsecure.com, and with www included as well. We will not use the www, so that's fine. Great. Now we have to confirm that we own the domain. So let's upload file. That's usually quickest. Okay. Save activation file. So this is the file that it wants us to upload onto the website. To validate the SSL, or that you are the owner of the domain, what you can do, actually, I just realized that you can create your own web server on Synology, forward port 80 on your router, and enter the file that you can download from SSLs.com, save activation file, to directory on your web station. So go back to Synology Package Center and download web station as you can see, I've already installed it. There's a couple of things that you need to configure. So go to virtual host, you will go create, enter your host name, document root, which will be by default web. That's fine. Choose your HTTP backend server in Nginx, that's the only one available. And PHP, we don't have any version installed, so we'll go not configured. That's all there is here. And then that file will be uploaded to web.wellknown PKI-validation, and that's where SSLS.com will look up for this file. But here's a problem. If you are accessing your Synology from within your own network, your address to Synology will be local one, 192.168.1. something, as opposed to your public IP address, which could be anything, 61. something or 58. So you would not be able to access it from within your own network. For that purpose, you will have to install DNS Manager. So if you go to the Package Center, search for DNS, install. So for that we have to open up port 53. Yeah, actually it suggests on its own, so you don't have to do it. So this is now configured. Now we have to set it up. So based on your domain, you will have to create a new master zone because you are in control of it from within your own network. So domain master DNS server. So that's this current Synology. Make sure you set up static IP address so it doesn't change, otherwise you won't be able to access it. Great, now we can edit it. So if you double click it, we can create a type. We'll just keep it without anything, and we type in the same IP address as the Synology. So one additional thing that you have to do is to make sure that you are using this DNS server as your DNS on your computer. So if I go ipconfig/all, you can see that I'm using my other Synology as my primary DNS. So you have to change this setting in your router. So make sure you add your Synology address as first, and as second you add your router as you had it before. Otherwise you won't be able to reach other addresses beyond your internal network. Just a side note, go to Control Panel, External Access and Advanced, and fill in the details with your correct address. So if you share data, a file, then it generates this URL so you can access it directly, or someone who you send it to can access the URL directly. Okay, so our certificate has been issued. So let's go to SSLS.com. Let's go to the certificate, download. This will download a archive with a zip file. Okay, let's keep this open. Back here, Control Panel, Security and Certificate section. And now we're going to upload new certificate. So add new certificate, import, name it. So private key is the key that you have generated with the CSR request. So this is the key. And then the actual certificate. That's the one we have just downloaded. Great. Great, that's been uploaded and accepted. And the next step that we need to do is to configure it. So as you can see, for each of the services, you need to select the certificate. So let's select the one that we have just uploaded, system default as well, because that's how we're going to access all the systems, and FTP as well. Okay, this will restart the web server. Okay, let's try and access it now. Perfect. As you can see, we've got the green padlock. It's asking us to log in again, since this is a new URL, new cookie. But we have a green padlock, secure connection. There is no confirmation to configure. So this has been completed. Number 5, enable two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. Go to your Synology, your user, options, and personal. And here's where you can enable two-factor authentication. First thing you need to set up is notification service. So let's set that up first. You can set up any Google, Outlook, Yahoo, or custom. I'll set up through Outlook. So pretty much what this does is send an email from that email address on your behalf. So you have to enter the password for the service to work. Test connection. Perfect, that worked. Go next. Oh, we do not want to do that. Okay, so back to two-step verification. Yes, this is your primary email address that you have access to, that you have on your phone, on your computer. So for this purpose, to use the actual two-step verification, it uses Google Authenticator. So if you have Android, iOS, and I'm sure you do one of them, download the application from the store and then scan the code. Great, so now that you have set it up and verified, then you can adjust account activity. You can set this device as remembered device. So we'll set it as trusted device, which essentially will create a cookie so it remembers it. Every time you will try to access your Synology from any device, it will ask you for the code from your Google Authenticator app. You will have to enter it. Sometimes you can tick if you want to remember it for up to 30 days. Then it will ask you again. If you do not tick the checkbox, then it will ask you every time for added security. So if you are in public places and stuff like that, first of all, maybe do not use it. If you need to, then do not tick the remember me. Use secure browser, use the private mode as well. So that's for number 5, setting up two-factor authentication. And number 6, keep your DSM and apps up to date. So this is really easy. And as you know from your mobile phone, you keep your apps up to date in your system. So this is essentially the same thing. You can set it up on autopilot. So if you go to Control Panel, Update and Restore, Update Settings, you can by default check the latest DSM updates, and you can also install new DSM update automatically. Or you can only choose install important updates automatically, or just notifying you, or you can completely disable that. Synology comes with updates quite often, mainly when they are related to security. So if there's a new security threat discovered, they usually patch almost immediately within a few days and roll out the updates to all the disk stations. So it's usually a good idea to have this enabled, or at least have the important updates enabled. In Package Center, you can do the same. So if you go to Package Center and Settings and Auto Update, by default it is disabled, but you can enable it for all packages or for only update selected ones. So if you want, I can select only certain applications that I want. So yeah, that's what you can do. So that's all the 6 steps that we ran through today. Hopefully you followed along and it was easy to understand. And I hope your Synology is secure now. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you next time.